Okay, the music went off. That's a signal. Time to get going again. I'm chatting. We have 6 people in our open mic, so let's aim for about 3 or 4 minutes each. And before we get started, I'd like to read you something that I had fun with the other day. I won't read you all these. I'll read you maybe just 2 or 3 at a time. These are 10 lines of perfectly clear academic criticism. With regard to the issue of implied content, the sublime beauty of the sexual signifier seems very disturbing in light of a participation in the critical dialogue of the early 90s. Here's another one. I find this work menacing, yet playful, because of the means by which the disjunctive perturbation of the negative space contextualizes the eloquence of these pieces. And here's a third one. It should be added that the optical suggestions of the spatial relationships endanger the devious simplicity of the remarkable handling of light. Which, of course, to me, all of these mean absolutely nothing, and they feel like academic criticism. Sometimes you have to wade through. I have a friend who writes these needlessly complex academic articles, and I keep telling him, you could really simplify a lot. And these are sort of fun ways to be deliberately obtuse, which, of course, none of those who we're about to read will be. And our first featured reader is Irene Bloom. And our question of the month this month is, what is your favorite musical instrument? And Irene's answer is oboe, which I really like because it's the most human-like of all the musical instruments. Please welcome Irene Bloom.
Ooh, the bright lights of stardom. Yazoo. Oh. Okay, let's see how we do this. No wonder you guys were schwitzing up here. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to be here this evening, but before I left the house this morning, I grabbed 3 poems that are poems of the season, so I thought I would share those with you. The first one is called Wandering in the Mercer Slough. Deep into the wetlands, past a myriad of streams, the trail becomes soft and soggy, bloated by spring rains and runoffs from the nearby slough. Beneath my feet, a fluid, spongy mix percolates into peat, the soft, dark nursemaid that feeds the flora all around. Before long, the constant thrum of the highway becomes faint. The path divides, and I fear I am lost in the bog. On the right, a colony of horsetails, like so many striped spears, their slender green stems aimed straight and skyward. But somehow I am drawn to the left by the fragrance of this sweet season. It must be the mix of rich earth and the scent of small wildflowers that poke their heads amid the ground cover of moss and fern, and the many green shoots of grass and sedge. Further along the footpath, a sudden bold stench reminds me of where my walk began. The kings of woodland florals appear. The yellow-hooded swamp lanterns light the way for any lost explorers. Their tall spherical heads, appendages full of tiny flowers, stand erect like phallic symbols of the forest. Giant waxy leaves, seemingly misplaced from some tropical setting, dominate the undergrowth of less impressive species. And now I near the trail's end. Wooden steps lead up to noise and traffic. Eden is behind me. Another springtime experience. Snowbirds. Crossing from Canada, the ferry sails the Salish seas from Sydney to San Juan town on this island of the same name. Here at the rim of northern wilderness, we few travelers walk off the boat onto the worn wooden dock. Homeland security is simple. No building or booth to pass through, only a lone officer uniformed in blue at a backwoods border. A short line forms, me behind the snowbirds, hippie boomers, brown-skinned and sandaled, back from a winter season spent on some southern beach, perhaps the Baja or the Costa Chica, lying all winter under their palapa. His tangerine t-shirt and thin Nehru jacket need a wash. His only luggage is a burlap bag stenciled Islas Mujeres. The officer asks if he has any Cuban cigars or rum. The bag reveals none, and he is ushered through. His partner carries more, as women often do, rucksack, guitar, and straw hat, all strapped to her back. Still dressed for the beach, she shivers under a turquoise tasseled top, long see-through skirt, and a crocheted beret. Waiting in the chill spring drizzle, I am next to approach. Armored with umbrella and raincoat, I smile and declare nothing. The officer welcomes me home to America, and I am alone on the wharf, dreaming of those other islands where stunning sunsets suspend over Mayan temples and silvery sandy strands reflect an orange glow of eventide. And I'll close with a spring memory when I was in Japan. Hakone in May. Skyscraper bamboo crowd the riverside with canes as wide as your waist, their leaf blades long sheaths of green. Cherry just past the blossom already bear the buds of pale fruit. Dogwood heavy with creamy flowers squeezed between dark fir and the crimson and chartreuse of giant Japanese maples. Wild wisteria, their blooms hanging like lavender lanterns, dot the mountainside, and there is a hint of peach and pink and mauve where azalea and hydrangea appear. Crossing the footbridge, I smell the scent of citrus on the breeze. Huge jet-black dragonflies hover and beat their double wings just above the white, foamy rapids. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. Our next reader likes the musical instrument, the mandolin, which is a favorite of mine too. Please welcome Eilina Goodkin.
Oh, I can really see why everybody's blinking so much. Oops. I just wanted to warn you, my recent poetry is somewhat confessional. I'm also going to be reading 3 poems, and the first one is called Ducks. Mother duck hustles across the freeway interchange. Newly hatched ducklings behind in a row. Mother duck fixes her eye on a destination. Just in front of me, the car swerves to miss this desperate little family, and I see 2 patches of fluff adhered to the asphalt, one tiny foot jerking in the air, the work of the previous inattentive motorist. Everyone breathes a collective sigh. The rest have made it across. I have hustled across this freeway I call a life. For many years, I thought I had a destination, my little family in tow. I always thought I knew what was coming, that I was safe, until a big red diesel pickup hit me as I was trying to get to the other side and separated me from all that I held dear. I was stuck to the pavement, but I was not roadkill, not yet. I pulled up my broken pieces and patted myself all over to make sure nothing was missing. Sometimes I think we are all like ducks, going about our business, intent on our destination, never knowing when something is going to come round that curve in the road and take us out. But fortunately, we are not ducks, and we have knowledge that helps our journey to the destination make a little more sense. I breathe a sigh and know I can make it across. The next poem is called The Hold, and the incident took place in Mexico City. The concentration necessary to catch the metro, light drizzle emerging as a storm, didn't want to get so wet. The chokehold preceded by one footfall. Hoisted over the edge of the guardrail, pedestrian bridge, suspended, caught the view of 3 converging highways at rush hour, knew I would die. Death was a 3-piece suit, briefcase left to the side, all the better to do his task. Comprehension for me limited the torrent of the horrible monologue directed toward my subjugation. But profanity is always the first thing learned in a new language. Intent was clear: how to stop the smooth Moreno hands from letting go or finishing me with a twist of the neck. Satisfied, he dropped my broken soul on the cement and took my metro tickets. This body without a face has sat with me in every car, on every bridge, on every road, whispering his menace, his promise to finish the job. I will do his work for him, I will tell myself. I can't. Each year, the circle of possibilities decreases, my slavery increases, your willingness to see it decreases. Yesterday, I threw him into the abyss. I drove. It felt good. He still murmurs his intent, but the distance has allowed for a modicum of sanity. To continue his life, I will do this. I must do this. Today, a new road. And this last one, it's short. It's called Move Over. I am done with the sadness, tired of the pain. My life, it is what it is. The pain was a gift. Without it, I never would have rediscovered this kick-ass woman, darn straight. Look out, because I am coming this way. Move over or join me. Either way, me da igual. That's right, me da igual. Man, it was about time.
Thank you. And please, this is your first time here, right? Yes. Thank you. Please come again. Our next reader's favorite musical instrument is the piano. And maybe now is the time to ask if you could play the piano for us. Maybe a surprise piano performance would be welcome. Dominique, but I'm not quite sure how to say your last name. Dominique. Okay, there we go. Please welcome Dominique.
I'm going to disappoint you all. I do not play the piano. No, sorry. Okay, I'm going to do 2 poems. The first one is one of my favorite poems by one of my favorite poets. It's Listen to the Mustants by Shel Silverstein. Listen to the mustants, child. Listen to the don'ts. Listen to the shouldn'ts, the impossibles, the won'ts. Listen to the never haves, then listen close to me. Anything can happen, child. Anything can be. And this next one is one of mine. And as a challenge to myself, this is a story I've been wanting to get out for quite a while. And this is the first part of a 3-part poem installation, I guess. The other two part haven't been finished yet, but this is part one, and I'd like to share it with you. It's also confessional in a way, so. All right. Part one is called The Change. At the age of 15, I was to begin a strict regimen of medicine at the suggestion of an MD of psychiatry. And I vividly recall the morning after maybe the 4th dose had been taken. I, barely more than a skeleton covered in skin. You see, this was a time when the taste of skinny filled me up more than food did, when mirrors portrayed a stomach concave and hip bones protruded, reflecting back images of a person in despair and deluded. This is what I would have seen on that fateful morning if I could have. Warning, side effects include pupils dilated to the size of the entirety of the iris so that my eyes are blinded by the flick of a light switch, and all the while my scorched retinas are burning, my guts filled only with Zoloft and bile are churning what seems like every molecule of my being is yearning to split at the seams, so I collapse. My frail frame unable to sustain both the weight of me and the heaviness of the pain. And there I lay on the floor, clutching the cold tile, positively sure that I am creeping closer to my end, as each ragged breath taken is painstaking, and with every wave of violent aching that precede these bouts of seizing, shaking, I can feel my will breaking. The will to compartmentalize my feelings of inadequacy through the reduction of my size, the will to rationalize feeding myself barely the bare minimum to subsist my existence, using it all as a disguise to hide behind so I don't have to cope with the world outside and face these lies that I've been telling myself. I would exercise the demon anorexia nervosa in my lifetime, and it began on this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. The ukulele doesn't get enough appreciation, but our next reader appreciates the ukulele. Please welcome Michael Shine.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, sorry. I forgot it. I want to mention Litfuse Poets Workshop in Central Washington, the end of September. I passed out some literature from the erudite eros of Leonard Orr on our faculty to the heartfelt spoken word of Karen Finney-Frock to the political songs of Martin Espada. It should be a great time. So I invite you to check out our website, litfuse.us. So I've got this manuscript I wrote recently called The Killer Poet Plays with Guns. And it's a bunch of persona poems by the killer poet who is trapped in the 21st century America. Psychobiography of the killer poet. The killer poet is neither a killer nor a poet. He is a killer poet. The oxymoron is colonic. It is neither more nor less moronic than a musk ox, but tasteless and odorless, like carbon monoxide. Killer and poet are only words, bound by the weak force, twisted into braided charm quarks, fundamentally charged, identical, and repellent to the knife edge of attraction. You dreamed the killer poet, and he stuck. You feared him, and he became solid. He is the reification of your denial, the revenant of Rambo. The more you try to forget him, the more you obsess over him. You created his yellow teeth, the spittle on his beard. You gave him eyes to spot you. He could have been anything you wanted, harmless as a potter, but you made him a killer. When he holds you in his arms, what will you feel? And then let's see if I can find this one because I hadn't planned to read it, but, oh, there it is. Since you were reading those academic, Michael, those academic things, I love academia too. It's called It's Not the Destination. The killer poet gives the commencement address at a major university. He reveals the sexual indiscretions of the president with the bursar and a goat. The organizers shift uneasily. Nobody actually gives a shit what you think, he tells the graduates. In 20 years, you'll be divorced and bitter. Blinded and screaming, the graduates run from the hall to write poetry. According to his calculations, the killer poet has just unraped an entire third world nation. What is one slandered goat in comparison? And as the last one, let's see. Actually, most of this was written about a year ago, but I wrote one recently, so of course that's always irresistible. Oh, there it is. So remember, the theme here is Killer Poet Plays with Guns. This is called Trick or Threat. The killer poet stands his ground. His ground is crumbling brick behind a rotting stoop, behind cracked pavement, behind a 3-foot median strip. His ground is rented from the housing authority. He's behind on the rent, but it's his, God damn it. Children who pick his dandelions risk becoming lunch meat. Dog walkers with extension leashes better duck and cover. Christians who breach his perimeter better draw down. He'll defend his mail slot to the death. He has the right to shoot people on the left. He fears people who look artistic or autistic. The pizza delivery boy better watch his back. The killer poet knows the law of the jungle. It's his law now. On Halloween, he decorates with real ghouls. When he feels threatened, he doesn't have to back off. The killer poet watches Fox News 24/7. He always feels threatened. Thanks.
Thank you. Here are 3 more lines of perfectly clear academic criticism. Although I am not a painter, I think that the subaqueous qualities of the purity of line make resonant the distinctive formal juxtapositions. The iconicity of the Egyptian motifs, visually and conceptually, activates the essentially transitional quality of the rhetorical triangulation.
Oh God, I understood that one.
You're afflicted. I remain surprised that no observer has mentioned yet that the aura of the gesture notates the larger transitional carcass. There you go. Our next reader is Will Murphy, whose favorite musical instrument is the Game Boy.
Hello. So I have 2 short ones and a long one, but I guess I'll make the long one the middle one, if I can find them. Alright. Merciless anxiety filling me up. Twisted knots have infested my guts. As time lapse, the more I go nuts. How did I become this poor? Not even tears can I afford. Everyone is happy and in love, as if all they had to do was nod. It's more complicated for me, though. I'm better off searching for God. Sorry, Mom. Forgive me, Dad. I did my best not to turn out this bad. But I'm all alone now. I'm all I ever had. I forget how to be happy. I'm tired of feeling sad. I want to drop all this and be able to fly. Just wishing for one day where I don't contemplate suicide. From sickness and unto death, weakness grows with every passing breath. This being a reality I do detest. For now, only the 4th horseman will give me rest. Yes, that really does seem best. Legends and myths come and pass, but the story of our short time together has to be the one I hold dear the most. Our fated meeting was more than a casual encounter, more of a discovery of a taboo of the ways that could not last. One moment, it was just another day of a life, and next was ingress to a mirthful reality that had hatched. Without warning, you came out of nowhere, just like how these visits usually start. Your radiance tugged at my awareness, and I needed more. I followed your steps and found myself surrounded by life. So curious of your very existence because someone such as yourself just cannot be from this world. Everything you said reached me, and you were all equally ears for my words from beyond the astral light. I admire how you can transition from talking to singing back and forth, connected with a single message. There is no time to put on masks, so we made do with our smiles. Suns exploded by the slight mingling of our souls. The world was dark and the sky bright as blue. Mountainous clouds outlined with a fine lining of gold were painted in the heavens, and not a single building was in sight. Oxygen was absent in this time and space, for music had taken its place. Just two stars passing by, sharing their light together, and awing all those who gaze about the celestial sphere. The longer I stayed by your side, the more I could actually feel myself becoming whole in this world that falls apart. Oh, how I wish to take in my elixir. But, like any other hallucination, all I could do was watch. It was when I mustered up the courage to reach out did you disappear, leaving me lost in this sleepy waking world. Others won't believe me of the telling of the surrealism you brought, but I don't mind. To me, you are real. If we were to have a chance of meeting each other again, this is what I shall do. Time will be short before I'm forced out of this blessed dream, so I'll gladly break my heart in two, through and through, so I can go on with my half and leave the other half for you. And this next one is about my awesome time in a cool place called Black Rock City. And that's actually the title, Black Rock City. Was the time of happenings. The land was lit a torch from souls of travel across the blue azure. El Popo Mechanical made its rounds, as is the duty of El Pasteur of the mutants. Sharks had a feast, gorging upon the unicorns, only to be overwhelmed by bees. Scruffy inhabitants found shelter, lying in the white jungle, and bathed in the breeze. The mistress had come to greet me from the entrance of the exotic forest. Centered in the chaos, a sculpture of admirable fear stood erect. 'Twas this magnum opus of one's malice, the epitome of torture and suffering, which amplified the beauties and joy swirling about in abundance. Darkness engulfs the scape of its light, as Lady Luna makes her stay, the crimson crescent so far away, spectating in awe of the surreal colors beneath her, as well as above. The temple is calling to house and mend the crippled, mangled souls. Enter the sanctum sanctorum, burn your ego, welcome thyself, and pass on as you are. Thank you.
Thank you. 3 more lines. It is difficult to enter into this work because of how the mechanical mark-making of the figurative narrative line-space matrix spatially undermines the substructure of critical thinking. I cannot help but be troubled by how the internal dynamic of the biomorphic forms verges on codifying the accessibility of this inimitable work. And as an advocate of the Big Mac aesthetic, I feel that the metaphorical resonance of the sexy fish threatens to penetrate the exploration of montage elements. There you go. Beat those. Our next reader likes the guitar. Please welcome Julia Nguyen. Nguyen?
Okay. I'm gonna try to recite this from memory, but we'll see how that goes. This one's called White Chocolate Mochas. Okay. The way that we met, you say, was organic, but underneath all this charm was a wreck like Titanic. Reckless and manic, all in a panic. When I miss you, it's evil, it's almost satanic. These are the thoughts of a hopeless romantic. When we kiss, it's like poetry, like all the lines you throw at me. Each word is a seduction, and like a fungus, boy, you grow on me. Nightshade darkened skies, sepia-colored eyes. La Vie en Rose, and Louis knows that somewhere heaven sighs. Maybe Apollo thought to intervene, or I'm buzzed from all of this caffeine. but atom by atom, atom by atom, your soul laced whole, the most beautiful man I've ever seen. I have endless admirations for your freckled constellations. While the universe conspires, it assures with good vibrations. Cupid's bow rests on your lips. When they meet mine in an eclipse, I'm struck like the piano keys my ribs created for your fingertips. The coffee has made me bold, so now I've got a hand to hold. Forget linings of silver, all my clouds are painted gold.
Thank you. Is there anyone who's not signed up that would like a chance to read? Okay, well, thank you to everyone who's read. I have a couple of pieces of my own here to end with. This is called Update. My dad has died. I heard at my health club playing racquetball with my son while my daughter was at a birthday party. I stepped out of the court to check my phone. I just missed a call from my mother and called her immediately. She said Dad had died just a few minutes before, at about 3:50 p.m., Sunday, January 26th, a day I will now remember every year. My dad was 85. There, I've just referred to him for the first time using the past tense. After I hung up, I told my son and we hugged for a minute on the racquetball court, crying a bit. We played for another 10 minutes and then drove home, where I also told my daughter. I know Thomas and Sarah understand. Tonight, my wife has made baked potatoes for dinner, my favorite, and our family will be talking about Dad around the dinner table. My mother had been holding my dad's hand, singing to him when he exhaled and didn't inhale. The last word he'd said a couple of days before was simply goodbye. Clouds threatening snow. Facebook beeps again with another condolence. And this is my most recent poem, so you're the second bunch of people to hear it. It's called, I'd recently been reading William Stafford, and he has a number of poems with a title like Things Trees Say, or Things That Whatever Says. And so I thought I'd give it a try with Things Haiku Say. Things exist. Brevity is an art. The world is a joy. The world changes. One represents many. Color shades meaning. Rain falls on everything. Each season takes its turn. The world breeds ambiguity. You have feelings about things. Echoes and shadows are also real. An image can be heard and tasted. You don't always notice everything. The glass is half full and half empty. Relationships develop between objects. Intuition reigns for writers and readers. The time of day is not always a metaphor. Sometimes it's enough to notice something. Harmony can surprise you as much as contrast. The thing is what it is, but only what it is to you. Now is ephemeral, but now is all we have ever had. Sometimes you change the world, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you change with the world. Sometimes you don't. A flower matters, and so does a stone, a rusty bolt, a boring sunset. Wonder is a fuel. And to close, I'd like to read a poem by John Bigler Crow, which I came across online recently. It's called More Than a Moment Ago. Love is like haiku. Its depth in what's not said, its quality hidden between words, where silence dwells and the heart blossoms like a spring flower. Love is like haiku, too many words and the point is lost to insecurity and fear. Friendships are won or lost through words and deeds, but love shouts silently from the stillness of the heart as light beams shining on life. It's friendship that turns lovers' lust to enduring love, allowing each to grow and be something more than a moment ago. Good night. Thank you.
This kind of wondrous lullaby